Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hong Kong Confidential is brought to you by Teresa's Turkish Towels. Teresa imports the finest 100% Turkish cotton towels that dry very quickly, making them perfect for Hong Kong's humid climate. Say goodbye to the traditional smelly and stinky towels and try the colourful and fresh selections available online or in Teresa's Wan Chai store. Use the promo code CONFIDENTIAL online or mention this podcast when you visit in person to receive $100 off your entire order when you order 2 or more towels. With 100% satisfaction guaranteed or your money back, the only thing you've got to lose are the musty smells that permeate traditional terry towels. Visit www.hkturkish.com in order to get the address and directions to Teresa's semi-hidden location. Today I'm here with Kate Targett-Adams. Hi Kate, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here. Thanks, Jules.
It's so exciting to meet you. You've accomplished so much in your life. I have to refer to my notes so I can keep track of everything. But one of the first things I noticed when I was looking into your life, I noticed that you were like in Junior MasterChef when you were little. Tell me about that.
Well, it was a really fun experience, something that was quite unexpected. My family loved food and we would watch the senior MasterChef in the UK, always together on a Sunday evening as a family. And one time they were scrolling with the credits at the end of the series and it said, if you want to join Junior MasterChef, please write in. So my family, you go, write in. So I did it. And then I auditioned and had to cook a 3-course meal in a university in Edinburgh. And then they called me up and they said, when I was 14, would you like to go on TV? So we were excited.
I bet you were.
The whole family at that stage goes down to London. And that meal I had probably cooked about 100 times. Even
what did you make? Do you remember?
Well, at that stage, it was all kind of like blackcurrant coulis and all that stuff. So yeah, it was good fun. And what was unexpected was, I suppose, winning. And then they say, well, come back in 2 weeks and cook another 3-course meal for the semi-finals. But I had nothing prepared. So I did that. And then they go, okay, next week, finals. And I was like, oh my goodness.
You didn't win the whole thing, did you?
Well, what's a really weird story is that on the day I was doing the finals, they did the adults in the morning and they do the children in the afternoon. So my family passed the winners and they went, how did you get on? And Jerry Goldwire, who was the Scottish winner, he goes, yes, I won. And so Scotland won the senior. So my mum said to me, well, she didn't actually say to me, she said to my dad, there's no way she's going to win because they can't have 2 Scottish winners. So anyway, I do the whole competition and somebody else wins. And then what was really peculiar, and I don't understand it, but if you Wikipedia it, it says that I won.
Does it?
I don't know why. It's all over everywhere that I was the winner. And I know that people afterwards said to me, cameramen said, you were meant to be the winner. I have no idea, but
wow, that's freaky.
We'll never know.
Spooky.
We'll never know.
How did you get involved in music and performing?
Well, my family always encouraged music. We were always singing. We went to see lots of musicals. My uncle, he's a self-taught guitarist and he became the guitarist in Roxy Music, the UK band. So music's always been in my family, but I'm by no means any kind of prodigy. In fact, my piano career started and stopped at the age of 7. My teacher said to my mum after a year of learning that I might as well give up because I was never going to cut it. I mean, the good thing about Miss Sinclair, who I won't forget, is that she spurred me on to start the harp. And ultimately, she was right. You know, to be really of a standard to be fantastic at the piano, you've got to be absolutely perfect. So for me, I found the harp. It was a better mix for me. I could sing and play. It was lovely because it was a Celtic harp and I learned in Scotland. And I since feel that everybody has a different instrument that they're good at. Just because I was terrible at the piano doesn't mean that I had to be terrible at something else. So I would encourage parents listening, if they are, to really try and experiment with different instruments.
Yeah, because I was terrible at the piano, but really good at the recorder.
There you go.
And the fife. What age did you start learning the harp? And isn't that an unusual instrument for a young child to choose to use, or did your parents choose it?
Well, in Scotland, there is a Celtic harp festival once a year. So I went at Easter. I did, when I was 8, a course for a week. Then I did another course when I was 9, then another course when I was 10. And then my parents thought, okay, she seems quite serious. We'll start weekly lessons. But I would say I was not that diligent a student. I never took a musical grade. I just did it as a hobby. And it wasn't really until much later at university that I started to really perform and to develop my craft and take an interest in it.
So what did you study at university?
I studied Spanish and German, and while that was hugely unvocational, it actually came in handy later on since I started to sing in other languages, perform across the world, and then I took it as a kind of personal challenge. Wherever I go to sing, I will sing a song from that culture or place.
I read that you performed at the Forbidden Wall and also the Beijing Olympics, and you sang in Chinese.
Yeah, well, I was told to sing in Chinese, actually. The first time I went to China, I was performing for 10,000 people in an outdoor stadium.
Wow.
It was very surreal. And on the way out, people were like trying to claw at you and get you to sign on their hats and their t-shirts in ink and pass you roses. And I just felt so embarrassed that I couldn't say thank you or communicate with any fan. So when I got invited back the next year to go to sing in Shanghai, I was told to learn a specific song, which was a beautiful love song that I still perform today. And so I learned it, and then it opened such a wonderful response in the public, in the audience, that I was motivated to sing more and learn more songs and learn Chinese and go on.
Oh, well, good for you. Let's go back to after you finished university. What did you do first when you left uni?
Well, because of the Junior MasterChef, I actually had an opportunity to manage a restaurant for Terence Conran. I saw him speaking. He was speaking at Oxford University, and I was bolshy enough in the audience to say, well, I was on Junior MasterChef. Would you give me a job? I don't know what I was thinking about. But then I had an interview with one of his staff. And then so I was faced with this challenge. Do I accept a kind of job with a salary, or do I follow the music? Because I'd been doing some performances in the US for the Scottish Tourist Board. There was a kind of road that I could go down. So
did you have to make a decision?
Yes.
How did you decide whether to go down the cooking route or the music route?
Well, I just asked the panel of my family, and both mom and dad said, do the music, which I'm really grateful for, because you do need to have that kind of support, I think, if you're going to do an alternative career.
Definitely. And a lot of parents don't see music and theatre and any of the arts, being an artist or anything like that, as a viable career, do they?
Yes. I mean, I'm very lucky as a solo singer and harpist. I'm a bit like a one-woman band. I don't need to rely on other people. The way that the career went, I developed this kind of speciality to sing in Chinese, and there aren't too many white girls singing in Mandarin, playing the harp, playing jazz and pop and opera and all kinds of different styles. So,
in other words, you're the only one, right?
I would just say I've got a niche.
Yes.
And I'm lucky that I can work here and really grow my career. And so I feel What was your first big break, or the first thing that you did musically that really sort of launched you onto the international stage? I think that maybe it was playing in Washington, D.C. The Scottish Tourist Board called me up and they invited me to go to sing for 3 or 4 days, I think it was. But I was sitting my finals at Oxford, and so I said, well, thanks so much. That's really lovely. I would have loved to have done it, but I'm really sorry I've got my finals. And so then I obviously tell my parents, and they were like, what? Get back on the phone, call them up, say you're going to do it. And, of course, it didn't make any difference to the big scheme of things, the final result. So I went to Washington, and really from there, one gig always seems to lead to another because you're advertising yourself by performing.
And you've sung for the Queen, I believe?
Yeah, that was a really exciting day. Well, you're always nervous before any performance, small or big. And so it's always, a challenge. Can you control yourself, basically, when the time comes? But that was for the opening of the Scottish Parliament, and the whole day was full of euphoria. So I think the challenge is to just channel the energy into adrenaline and excitement rather than nerves.
Fear and panic.
Yes.
Do you have any tips for coping with performance nerves? Do you meditate beforehand? Do you listen to music? Do you hang out with people so you have your mind taken off it? Or what do you do?
It's a good question. Well, since I developed this company, Superstyle Asia, and we teach people kind of tips for confidence, I do what I teach all my students, which is these 3 steps. And I say PCP. I would teach people to do a power pose. Amy Cuddy made it very famous. And while that has been debunked in some way, I think it's still very valid. Make yourself feel big, make yourself feel powerful on top of the world with your body language. Then that really changes your hormone levels and the way you think. And then I do C, which is for centering, which is where you kind of calm everything down and center down the middle line and just relax all those little muscles that get stressed out,
I'm doing it in my face now.
Good.
Okay, I'm doing it, yeah.
And the good thing about centering, power pose, sometimes I just do it backstage and I don't really mind what everybody thinks about me anymore. Yeah. Or you can go to the bathroom and do it, and make yourself big as Superwoman or Superman. Centering, nobody needs to know you're doing it. So you can do it just 2 minutes before you go onto stage or you're about to public speak or something. And then I do posture. For me, posture is such an important piece of body language that many people seem to forget. And so if you put your posture on and you stand up tall, you stand up straight, you look more confident to other people, you feel more confident, other people have more faith in you, and the whole thing just is a positive cycle from there.
That's so true. Can you tell me a bit more about your company? What do you do with this company? When did you develop it and what do you do?
Well, I started basically creating a program for ladies that was about expressing yourself through body language and dancing in a feminine way. When we started to do that, we found that actually people in Asia in general are a little bit shy. Everybody's taught to study so hard. The emphasis is not put on body language, public speaking, communication, eye contact, things like that. Just different cultural set of norm. So it was really popular class. And then I started to look into posture and how important that was. And from there, I was once performing at an event in China. The TV director for Miss Universe China was sitting next to me at the dinner. She said, I'd love you to teach these skills to our girls who are going to be competing in the final and on the TV show, because they're nervous. They don't know what to do. And we want them to have some kind of presence and gravitas and self-assurance. So really, it started from there. Once I had developed that program, then a team of my consultants and we kind of put together the company Superstyle Asia to teach etiquette, to teach what we call personal branding, and to teach soft skills, basically, to help you put your best foot forward in life.
Was it originally for beauty pageant contestants and then you've sort of expanded out to anybody who wants to build their self-confidence or learn sort of more Western values? Can I say that? Or
Well, I would say they're international guidelines because these days the world is much more global. Everybody needs to know a kind of code for polite behavior that's going to not offend people, that's going to put you in a positive light. So it was really developing classes for ladies. But since then, we teach children, we teach men, we teach hotel staff, we teach big companies, we teach all kinds of different variations of cultural etiquette.
For example, if you were going into a hotel, would you be teaching particular styles of waiting and how to be the best you can be with your customer?
Yes, we had a really interesting challenge, which was to do an etiquette or deliver an etiquette program for 900 staff at a hotel in Macau before it opened. What we taught was how to have empowered etiquette. So what I mean is it's not just being deferential to the client or the guest. It's about anticipating someone else's needs. You see somebody coming towards you they're obviously going into the lift. Why not press the lift button? It's about thinking ahead, feeling what would that person need in that context. And so it's actually creating a special moment that makes your service, your customer service memorable.
Yeah, so it's showing initiative, isn't it?
Definitely.
Oh, cool. In your etiquette classes for the beauty pageants or for women, what are some of the key things that you focus on?
Well, for that, we do focus on skills that they need, such as walking elegantly, sitting well, eating, dining etiquette is a big part of it. We do focus on communication skills, shaking hands, when to kiss somebody, when to shake hands, when to hug somebody, greetings. We focus on all the things that will make you seem like a confident, mature woman.
Did you do any courses to learn these skills yourself? Or I suppose in this day and age, you can Google it all. But did you do like a modelling course, or did you do an etiquette course or anything like that to get started?
I feel that my upbringing, which was in Britain, gave me the elements I needed for normal day life, let's say. At Oxford, there were a certain amount of formalities and rituals that you needed to learn from and adhere to. And then my performing skills, really, that's what gave me the training, I would say, because I deal with a lot of different levels of people. I'm meeting a lot of audience members.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's when you really have to put your armor on and your body language and prepare it and be calm and confident on the outside.
And I guess in a way, you're just taking all those performance skills and those life skills that you've learned throughout your life growing up in your family, and you translate it to whatever the clientele you have is.
Definitely. It's exactly right. For example, in China, we translated it, much more from personal branding, which is what we teach companies in Hong Kong. We translate it into etiquette. And I've been asked for some kind of crazy things. For example, I have taught driving etiquette course all over China for Maserati.
What?
I've taught Christmas etiquette for Wedgwood. At first, when I get asked, I'm like, what on earth is Christmas etiquette? And then I realized
how to pop your popper.
Yeah, there's so much.
Who cuts the turkey.
Yes, exactly. And the cultural things that we take for granted, like giving a gift.
Yes, I was going to say present opening and thanking people and showing appreciation. And how do you adapt that for cultures? Because in some cultures, it's rude to open your present in front of somebody. In others, it's rude not to.
Yes, so true.
And also, I think that it can really depend on your reaction based on cultural norms as well. So do you really think about the cultural norms of wherever you're working as well?
Definitely.
And to try to adapt your guidelines considering their culture?
I think what you have to say is that we do this differently in where I was brought up in Britain. It's not to say that it's better. It's not to say that it's worse. It's just different. So once you have the knowledge, then I think it's about defining what you need in that scenario. So I needed to learn Chinese etiquette when I arrived here. I needed to know how to sit at a dinner and share plates and which chopsticks to use to serve from the main food.
Yes, because the black chopsticks go in the middle, and then the white chopsticks are the ones that you eat from.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other Chinese etiquette things that you had to learn? Taking the business card with two hands.
Of course, yes.
Any other things?
Well, one thing that really fascinated me was when I was spending quite a lot of time in China, I was working with a couple of agents and I got to know them quite well. And then I would do small things which I thought deserved a thank you, and they wouldn't thank me. And so I was like, this is really odd because I know them well. Why wouldn't they just say thank you? I bought them a gift. But what I realized was they told me later on, in China, if you're good friends, why would I need to thank you? Because it's a given that you do stuff for me, I do stuff for you, and we're chums. But obviously in Britain, you say thank you everywhere, every day. And so I had to really adapt that way around. And I found that quite an interesting point.
I think it's also interesting when you travel in a taxi and you get in the taxi and you say, can I please go to Sitandangai? You even say it in Cantonese, and they don't respond.
Yes,
and it's like, do you know where that is? Or do you understand what I'm saying? And they just don't respond, and they just drive. And it's took me a very long time to get used to that and not feel that they were ignoring me or being rude, but it's just the way they operate, isn't it? Have you noticed that?
Definitely.
Or is that just me?
No. I think you're right. It's very important for etiquette to understand someone's cultural references. And then you don't need to get offended if they don't thank you or they don't acknowledge you. It's very much if you bring your own etiquette guidelines to the table in a different country, you can't expect people to react the same way. And if you do, then you're just going to get disappointed.
And I guess in a way that people are hiring you because they want your British etiquette, don't they? That's what they're hiring you for in the first place. So you've got to have an understanding of the cultural norms, but they also want you to teach them your way, don't they?
Yes, I would say that in general, people are looking for international etiquette. But of course, the way you put your knife and fork together in America is different to France, which is different to Britain. So,
oh my gosh, the Americans cut their food up and then they change hands.
Yes.
And then they scoop with their fork.
Yeah.
And it's like it's very, I mean, I'm Australian. We're brought up very much with the British etiquette. So we eat in a similar way, but we're probably not quite as polite. But it's very interesting. It can really vary from country to country, can't it?
Yes. So I think that, again, you have to adapt. And it's not to say that one type of etiquette is better than another. In fact, quite interestingly, do you know where the word etiquette comes from?
It's French, isn't it?
Yes. What does it mean?
I don't know. Is it something to do with a horse?
It's a good guess. So it comes from the word label or ticket. So in the time of Louis XIV in Versailles, he was taking on a lot of new courtiers and they would come to Versailles and they had no idea how to behave. So he would put labels or tickets on things so they would have a code of conduct. So, for example, don't walk on the grass, a label there. So that's where etiquette comes from. And then it became, I suppose, a definition of a polite code of behavior in a certain profession or situation or a certain country. And then Britain took it on. And so Britain became very interested in what was going on in France. And I would say now, probably, China is very interested in what's happening in Europe in terms of culture. And they're keen to learn. So I'm lucky that I'm in the right place at the right time because it's wonderful to teach people who are keen to self-develop, self-improve, and are hungry for knowledge.
Do you do job interview etiquette as well?
Definitely we do,
Oh, how cool.
Yes.
So, if people want a few job interview tips or practice, they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure.
And do you do individual work with individual people as well as groups?
Yes, actually, I find that one of the most satisfying because everybody's body language and communication skills is very different to one another. It's a very personal thing. So I've had clients come to me with completely different small points that have held them back in life. And then we probably in the space of 1 to 3 hours, we basically sort that out. And sometimes it's just making a small change, but it will really have a big difference in their life going forward. And to me, that is so satisfying that I really love what I do.
It's great helping and teaching people and seeing them learn and grow
and flourish.
And be really happy with the changes that they're making. Did you create the dance Ceroc?
Well, actually,
can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, it is true. It's a bit of an odd one because it's all over the world, but not everybody's heard about it. It started in the UK about 40 years ago. An Englishman went to France, saw everybody rock and rolling. So he called it Ceroc, and then he joined it into Ceroc, which is spelled Ceroc. And I came to Hong Kong. I was addicted to dancing at that point. I assumed that I would dance in Hong Kong. And then when it wasn't available here, I was very surprised.
Oh, you're a Ceroc dancer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just as a hobby. Okay. So that was my hobby in the UK.
And is it a little bit like rock and roll, is it?
Yeah, I would say technically it's called modern jive. Untechnically, it's basically very easy partner dancing to all kinds of pop music.
So a little bit like swing dancing?
Yes, although swing is probably very music genre specific. It's 1940 style. Whereas this, we're dancing in Lan Kwai Fong to Justin Timberlake, Rihanna, whatever's out. And I love that about Ceroc is you can dance it anywhere. So let's say you're at a party, someone knows how to twirl you around. You just get up and you dance with somebody. And it's a really lovely moment because it's just pure communication, not verbally, with somebody
Physical.
Else. Yeah.
It's connecting with people in a different level, isn't it?
Yes. And I find that it's a skill that is a little bit forgotten, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And it really is a lovely thing. Once people feel confident, of course, there's a bit of a stigma for men going to dance classes and learning, but it's actually been proven to, stave off Alzheimer's, to keep you young at heart, to keep this social life going.
Yeah, to keep all your joints lubricated.
Yeah.
That's
There's
good
no
too.
drawback.
I need to get onto it. My knees are killing me. Yeah, it's so interesting. I learned folk dancing and ballroom dancing when I was a child at school, and I can still remember them. I've actually pulled it out as a teacher now and taught kids every now and again. I can still remember the Virginia reel and how to waltz and stuff like that. And it is a great skill to have, and you never know when you might need it if you're at a ball or some sort of event. Kate, what brought you to Hong Kong in the first place, and how long have you been here?
Well, I would say my music really did bring me here. After I was going back and forth from China to Scotland, I started to twig that there might be a career opportunity. At that time, I suppose I was a convenient East meets West dancer. I could sing in Chinese, I could duet with a guzheng, I could do elegant dinners or events or opening ceremonies. And so I started to perform a lot for the Scottish government, for British royalty and Scottish Tourist Board here.
And J.K. Rowling. Did you perform for the Harry Potter launch or something? How was that?
Yeah, that was back in Edinburgh. That was pretty special. Basically, I don't know what happened, but I was allowed in the room when she was reading. So there was this moment where Edinburgh Castle had been transformed into a kind of Hogwarts, and it looked super magical. And all the children who had been handpicked from across the UK were brought in, and they were sitting in the Great Hall. I was playing music before J.K. Rowling read and afterwards.
The harp?
Yes,
right.
Yes. So at that time she said, right, every adult has to leave because I'm doing something particularly for the children. I don't want all these adults hanging around. I think maybe there was one other cameraman. I was dressed in a really big velvety cloak, like an invisibility cloak or something. I thought, well, I'm going to get shooed out of here too. But maybe, musicians get sometimes special dispensation backstage passes. So I was left in there with the cameraman, and I listened to J.K. Rowling reading to the children. It was very special.
Cool. So you were just able to sit and listen to it while all the other parents got kicked out. I bet they were spewing. Yeah, that's awesome. You came to Hong Kong and you were initially singing, and then did you start your dance troupe, and then you started your etiquette company in that order?
Yes, that's right. I think one thing has led to the other. Ceroc has been absolutely wonderful for connecting me to a community. It's a very community-based dance. In fact, what was really funny, I was obviously preparing a little bit for this, and I was listening to your podcast.
And
Neha was talking, and Neha's been a Ceroc dancer for quite a number of years.
Oh, has she?
But I had no idea about her powerful story, her amazing experience. Oh my goodness, I know. So I texting her, Neha, just listen to you, had no idea, because we all just come together for a love of dance. And it's a very wonderful way to connect with people. But, on a level where it doesn't go into what do you do? How long have you been in Hong Kong and all the normal stuff, because it's just a moment with other people. So I really enjoy that about Ceroc, and I enjoyed about your podcast, learning about, some of our
Isn't
Cerocers.
That nice? That's a really lovely story to tell. Yeah, that's episode 4, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go back and have a listen to Neha. Yeah, it's awesome. She's a real inspiration. You were the only Western performer at the Forbidden City performance in Beijing. That must have been a massive honour and really quite an amazing experience.
Yeah, I was lucky, but I would say that all the good things that come to me are because I try to be proactive. And I'm sure you feel the same in your life experience. I arrived in Hong Kong and I just thought, well, TV is a good opportunity. So I wrote to Phoenix Television here in Hong Kong, and the head of the department said to me, come and we'll show you round. So I was thinking, oh, great. Maybe, I don't know what opportunity was there, but Roger Urin, he showed me round. And then afterwards, he said, well, we'll keep your information on file. And that's how it normally works, And then this opportunity came up.
And that was like the 15-year celebration of Phoenix Television or something like that?
That's right.
Yeah.
So they asked me to perform there. And yes, it was a little nerve-wracking, but you just got to keep your head about you. And luckily, it all came off.
You mentioned that the way that the Chinese fans responded was quite enthusiastically. Is that something that's quite different from the way that your fans in Scotland or in Washington or whatever respond? And how do you deal with that? And how did it affect you initially?
Different cultures definitely have a different way of showing appreciation. In Scotland, I would say it's more understated, but fans still get in touch with me and tell me about an experience when I was performing maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago for them, which is very touching. Yeah. In China, it's a lot more excitable, let's say. I remember playing the harp and somebody came with like a garland of flowers and they put it over my head while I'm singing and playing. And, it's difficult to cope with the enthusiasm.
Yes. And that's not really British etiquette at a music performance.
So once you start to get used to the fact that anything can happen, I do remember also playing on we'd done the sound check, we'd done the rehearsal, that's all fine. But when I actually play the song and it's being broadcast on TV, the bubble machine started. And so I'm singing and bubbles are flying in my mouth.
With soap?
And nobody had just alerted me to the fact that we're going to do this when you're singing. So, but now I've got a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and I now am prepared for anything. Yes. And it keeps it fresh.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I went up to China to teach English for a week in the middle of Hunan province, right in the middle of nowhere. And I was in this city called Yanhei, and because I'm so tall and Western, I just had streams of people following me around like I was a celebrity. It was the weirdest feeling, and all the organisers were trying to sort of get me away because they were worried for my safety, but everyone, there was one person that could speak English that wanted to talk to me and translate to the whole crowd. And it was a really unique experience that I had to adapt to because I've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've been very grateful that music is so appreciated in China because I've performed, let's say, many concerts for 2,000 people, whereas in the UK, I would definitely not be doing that.
What would be the average size of a concert there, perhaps?
Well, it does range, but I suppose max a few hundred people. And also, I do remember a very special experience after I performed at the Shanghai Oriental Arts Center for the third time, and this is a big concert hall. There was a large queue of people waiting for you to sign a CD afterwards. And one girl came up to me and she said, I've been to your concert every year. And because of you, I decided to study at St. Andrews University in Scotland. So, I was like, it really was. And so that took me to a level like, wow. And then two Scottish friends actually said, we saw there was such a huge queue of people. We thought there must be somebody really famous here today. And then it was just you.
Nice. Thanks,
that brought me back down to earth. So,
You're famous in China. Oh, that's amazing. That's such a cute story. You wrote a song called Day by Day for the Sichuan earthquake survivors. Tell me about that and how did that come about and how was it received and did it raise a lot of money for the earthquake victims?
At the time, I was working with an agent in China. And the agent said to me, unfortunately, once it had happened, you should write a song because this can raise money, this can help, and this is your way of showing, that we're there for them. So I went to sleep and literally like the next day, the song was in my head. So I just started writing it down. And once I had it, then it started like the ball rolling. Standard Life sponsored the recording. We recorded with a choir of children from Dulwich College, Beijing. We then launched it at the British Ambassador's residence in Beijing. And then Standard Life took me and some of their staff down to Wenchuan and we performed it. Well, I performed it for the school children. And that day was, a little bit spooky. Obviously, it's a very, very sad and somber affair. And yet the children, they were so happy. And I remember performing the song outdoors and they were in their makeshift school, which was just porta cabins, connecting to each other. And they were covered in mud because there was no proper floor. Everything had been, turned over. So they were covered in mud and they were really happy. And what was really probably one of those memories that I'll remember forever is that they sang the choruses of the song with me.
So they already knew it and they sang all
I don't know, maybe they
just caught it as you did it.
Who knows?
That's so cool.
Who knows? But we did raise money and that went into buying music books and musical instruments for the school children in Wenchuan.
Oh, that's so nice. It's always good to do something to give back to the community, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. And music is a really nice way to be able to do that. In Hong Kong,
music can really bring people together. Sorry, I interrupted. What did you say in Hong Kong?
Well, I like to support with my music a charity called Angels for Orphans, which you may have heard of.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, run by amazing volunteer ladies. And so I do find that, it's often amazing. You get a group of musicians together, you give a concert, and you can raise quite a bit of money on one night of concert. And Angels Live Lounge is going on this December again. We're looking for new musicians, new talent. So if anyone's out there with a desire to perform for a very appreciative audience of supporters, then let us know.
Oh, I've got an idea for you. We'll talk about it afterwards. You combine language and music in your work. How challenging is that? And what are the benefits of blending culture and language, do you think?
I think because I studied languages,
does that make it easier for you to pick up new languages?
I think so. And being a musician, I can at least hear a few of the tones in Mandarin. Not always perfect, but I think it's something I enjoy doing, put it that way. And so anything you enjoy doing, it's easier to get it under your belt. So when I learn a song from a different culture, it's just like learning a lyric. I understand more or less what it's talking about if I don't speak the language. But for me, the most important thing is showing that you have made an effort, and it is a kind of musical etiquette. I think it's showing I appreciate your culture, and it does build rapport, it does build bridges, and it's kind of a two-way street, because I remember being in China and many, many times I would hear Auld Lang Syne, the famous Scottish song that everybody sings at New Year's. I would hear that in a lift, on the supermarket, intercom system. And I asked somebody, why is Auld Lang Syne being played all over China? And they explained to me that it is a very popular song. And I think it's because my theory is there's a pentatonic system in Chinese folk music and in Scottish folk music, which is a 5-note scale. So I think it really resonates. The music resonates, and also the message is about long friendship, So that's fascinating to me, how much songs can travel and bring communities together.
Yeah, they can. And do you sing in English in China as well, or is it just specifically Mandarin?
Definitely. There are a lot of songs that people really love. For example, You Raise Me Up, Titanic, The Prayer. There are a lot of Celine Dion songs or Sarah Brightman songs that are known. So you find yourself singing a few chestnuts. Yeah.
Oh, how fantastic. It's funny, when I was coming over here to talk to you today, I was talking to one of my friends and I'm like, I'm going to interview this amazing woman. She's so famous. I wonder if she'll play the harp. And my friend's like, what? She's just going to pull it out of the cupboard. They're like 9 foot high. Like, they always really massive.
Well, that is a good question.
Do you have a harp in the cupboard?
I do, actually. I have a few harps in the cupboard.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay. I think you might have to do a little tingle for me.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know the difference between a Celtic harp and an orchestral harp?
No, but I'm guessing that a Celtic harp is not as big as an orchestral harp.
Correct. That is a good start.
All right.
And the difference in the playing technique is that the Celtic harp has levers to change the key, so to make the notes go sharp or flatter. The orchestral harp has pedals at the feet. And so a bit like a piano and an organ. So the orchestral harp is obviously larger, and you will often find that being played with classical music, orchestras, things like that.
Can you play both?
It's the same technique, although I don't play the pedal harp as much because it's just not as easy to transport. And the beauty of the Celtic harp, and I actually play a type of harp called the Pilgrim harp, made by Pilgrim Harps in the UK. And that really, it is manageable to take it around with you. You know what I mean? Men always used to play the Celtic harp in Scotland, Ireland and Wales. And I think that's because they could carry it. These days, women have got great big muscles, walking around in trousers to a gig.
Feminism, give me that harp.
So,
I can get it to my gig on my own.
Exactly. I also do have mini harps. They're kind of called harpsichord harps, which are pretty fantastic because you can just wear them like a little guitar and walk around with them.
Oh, do you have one of those here?
Yeah, I have a gold one. I have a pink one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you get them in range of
colours. We're going to have a little harp photo shoot at the end. That'd be amazing. You just play mostly the Celtic harp, and do you sing without the harp, or do you always sing and harp?
Yeah.
That's not the right phrase, is it?
Yeah, no, you can. Why not? People do ask me, like, are you a harper? Are you a harpist?
Are you a harper? No, you're just a harpist.
Harper was almost for men, in the travelling minstrel troubadour stage. So harpist is more, thought of as the classical harpist.
Do you think in a past life you're like a troubadour, troupist with a harp?
Yeah. Well, I think in this life I'm like a modern day travelling minstrel.
Yeah, you are, aren't you? You're working all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I have to be very grateful to my harp. It's a passport. I've seen behind the scenes in amazing buildings. I've talked to wonderful people, and it's literally all because of the harp.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have any disasters that you can share with me? Like, I didn't
want a bit of juicy grit. Yeah.
That wasn't on my list of questions I sent you. Have there been any moments of regret or sheer terror or embarrassment or has it all been like smooth as silk?
Well, no, definitely not. I suppose maybe nothing too crazy dramatic. Just, a harp string bursting before you're going to go on stage is not ideal. So I think whenever you're doing live performance, you never know what's going to happen. Or back to performances in China, suddenly all the audience members get on the stage with you and start singing your song for you. And you're doing a group
putting gallons over
no
you.
problem. Yeah, no problem. And it's always lovely afterwards, but just at the time when you're singing and playing and smiling, and it's, a lot to process. But I'm lucky to say, touch a lot of wood. No disasters. I can't give you any more juicy.
Okay, right. That's the end of the interview. We're done. So you've been called the Celtic Princess. How do you feel about that title?
Well, I think it depends on your interpretation of the word princess.
Yeah.
If it's meaning, romantic, ethereal, then I quite like that title. My stepbrothers and sisters once told me that I was referred to by them as the princess in the family. That's not quite as complimentary.
As in like diva?
As in just, so everything's so special for you. And you're playing the harp.
They're just jealous.
Well, I don't mind laughing at myself. So I don't really mind the title, whatever it means.
Yeah,
it's fine
sweet, isn't it? Do you think that etiquette is a dying art?
I think that etiquette is an evolving art. So etiquette teaching you how to eat a piece of fruit with a knife and fork, that's past. No one's doing that anymore. And it's not.
Did they used to do that, did they?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've still seen other tutors teaching how to eat a banana with your knife and fork.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and to me,
So you're doing adaptive etiquette.
We're doing contemporary etiquette for the modern day person.
Awesome. So you think it's evolving and changing?
Yes, definitely. And also, I think etiquette now is not so much about men showing deference to women. I think it's about showing polite manners to everybody. For example, if I go into the IFC and I push that big glass door open, I will hold it open for the next person rather than let it smash in their face. Or if I'm on the MTR, there's an elderly man, I'll stand up and he can have my seat. And I think that people need to realize that good manners don't go out of fashion and everybody should operate by that code of conduct.
And it doesn't have to be just for women. And it doesn't have to
Definitely
be anti-feminist.
Yes. And also,
how does etiquette fit with feminism?
Well, let me ask you, do you feel that it's an insult if a man was to open a door for you?
No, not really. But I know some friends of mine that do. Yeah.
Yeah, I find in general, because etiquette is showing respect for others, then you should take it in the sense that it's meant. It's not meant to patronize. It's not meant to condescend. It's meant to actually make other people feel comfortable.
I'm definitely somebody who would like to split the bill on a date, or at least like to offer. Of course, it's nice if somebody pays the bill, but I certainly feel that I should offer.
Yeah.
Is that part of etiquette, or is etiquette allowing somebody to pay the bill, or it's just being gracious and, generous and kind no matter what the situation?
I think it's nice sometimes. Everybody's operating from a place of generosity. So what I find is that if you do something nice for other people do nice things for you. So let's say you're the man, you're on a first date and you pay for the bill. The person would, if they've got any sense of, decorum, say, next time I'll get it.
Exactly.
And then isn't that just more lovely than always putting in half and half?
Yeah.
So
yeah, my turn. Yeah, I'll
exactly.
get this round, you get the next one. Yeah, so it's sort of a negotiation dance, isn't it, in a way, which is kind of nice. It's a cool question. How can we politely stop someone mansplaining to us?
Okay, so tell me your definition of mansplaining.
Okay, so my understanding of mansplaining, at first I thought it had something to do with them sitting with their legs really wide apart, but that's manspreading or something, isn't it? What's it called?
That's manspreading.
Okay, so once I got a handle on the fact that it wasn't them sitting with their legs wide apart, it's people being really know-it-alls, isn't it? And just telling you how it should be done and that they know how it's done best, and you don't really get a chance to even put your opinion forward.
Well, I think there's no...
Is that correct?
Yes. You're saying it's often a man explaining something to a lady.
It could be anybody, isn't it? It's only been a term that's coined in the last couple of years, isn't it?
Yes.
And I don't know what it's on the back of. It'd be really interesting to know the history of it.
I know.
Can you tell me? Brilliant.
So basically an author, now I do forget her name, but we can find that afterwards.
Okay.
An author found that she had written a book And then she was having a conversation with a man who was explaining the meaning of her book to her.
Oh, right. So he was mansplaining her book to her. So it's almost somebody then having more knowledge than you on a subject that you're an expert in.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So there we are.
And that can be a little frustrating, I would agree. And while there's no sure and fast method to stop that happening, I think there are tactics that you can, a range of tactics that you can use. So I would say there's 3 go-to things. Let's see if you agree with me.
Okay, great.
Okay, first one would be, firstly, you listen, okay? Because often people mansplaining just want to be heard. And part of etiquette, good etiquette, is just to listen to somebody, maybe even agree with them if you can bear to do so, and then take it away into your own personal opinion. But, it's important to listen. We've got one mouth, 2 ears. So in theory, we should be listening twice as much as we're talking.
And it's an important skill in everyday life, isn't it? Listening.
It is, yeah.
I'm having to really develop that skill. Yeah. And then your second
thing
yeah,
is that you could actually respond with a question, something that's an incisive question that makes them think, that takes them onto another path. But it's not you giving some kind of ultimatum or opinion back. It's a very pointed question. And the third way I would approach the subject would be to then try humor. If you find something's getting too serious, too bogged down in a long diatribe, then why not lighten it up and see where that takes you?
And what is it called if a woman does it? Is it called womansplaining?
I think it must be.
What advice would you give to the modern woman to be able to balance good manners and equality in the workplace?
Well, when we look at super style, at those kind of etiquette rules and good manners in the workplace, we actually call it personal branding. Because personal branding is about you putting your best foot forward and also knowing how you want to come across to other people in the workplace. Amazon founders Jeff Bezos, his quote is that personal branding is what other people say about you when you're out of the room. So you want to know what effect you have on people. And I think that once you know how you sound, how you talk, how you can be the most powerful version and confident version of who you are, then however you get treated is pretty much in line with how you're projecting yourself. If you're going to be very deferential to somebody, maybe you don't get treated as you want to get treated. So part of that's body language. It's all about how you communicate yourself. So I do think sometimes I work with clients on how to be more feminine because they've worked in a very male-led industry. And they actually want to now, let's say when they're 40 or something, tone down that hard masculine side, become more feminine. Other times I work with clients who need to appear older and more mature. And that can be a man or a woman. And in order to be taken seriously for a promotion, they actually need to, make their body language bigger, dress differently, sound differently. So I actually think if you feel there isn't equality in the workplace, what can you look in about yourself that you could change in order to create a better personal brand for you so that people will react to you in a more positive light?
That makes complete sense. So if you're working with somebody, can you sum them up pretty quickly and really sort of make a judgment on the areas that they could develop?
Yes. What I normally do is we will video, and it's when people see themselves on camera, actually they can pick things up too. So just when you talk to somebody, everybody does it. It's human nature. It's our primitive instinct that we have learned to judge other people within milliseconds. So they always say a first impression takes something like 250 milliseconds, because in olden times, you had to know, you're coming towards me. Are you going to pull out a spear and stab me, or are you my friend? So that's why when you walk down the street, you'll see, thin person, old person, nice person, angry person. You make all these judgments in a split second. So if I spend a short amount of time and video someone, firstly, I get a pretty good sense of their first impression. And when they see themselves videoed, they can hear, it's always different when you actually see yourself on camera or you hear yourself recorded. So often they can pick up things, and that's much more powerful than me telling you, you've got to do this, this, and this. It's much better them saying, well, this is what I want to change.
And if they go, I don't know what's going on, I'm not sure, I've watched that, I can't really work out what I need to do. Can you tell me? Do you tell them, or do you just try and draw it out of them like a counsellor would?
Yeah, I'm a problem solver by nature. And so I'm not diplomatic enough to just listen and not give my slightly educated opinion. I would say that I would always give the feedback and try and not make it personal so that they're leaving distraught, because we actually find a solution, because there are very easy solutions for most people's soft skill issues. And so I will tell them what I think could be fixed and the ways that it could be fixed. Obviously, quite a lot of these things are muscle memory things. So it takes some time and they've got to put the time in to change it. But yes, I will speak up. And I won't let them go home, not knowing.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now I want you to evaluate me. So would you like to start with my positive attributes? And then what do you think I could work on as an interviewer? What would you recommend for me to improve on?
Well, I find in general, I probably would not be doing the business of Superstyle if I was in the UK. It would have never come to me, because we get taught at school from our parents to have an outgoing nature. You've got a very outgoing nature. You're confident, you're personable, you make eye contact, you smile, you joke, you do small talk.
Thank you. That's really nice. That came easily. I'll give it $50 later, ladies and gentlemen.
And so I found that people here weren't given that same start. For example, my school taught me to do public speaking, and you just had to get up there and do it. Once you've practiced these things, they become natural and you assimilate them as part of yourself. So I am only really developing this because I feel there's a need here. But I would say that in general, you like me, we are both tall people. When I came to Asia, I wasn't wearing high heels. I was kind of stooping over a little bit because I wanted to fit in and I didn't want to stand out too much. But then I started to realize, that's wrong. So my only piece of advice, because I think there's very little that you have to change, Jules.
Thank you so much.
Is that just stand up and roll your shoulders back and down and lift your head up and be exactly the most confident that you can be. So no need to really crouch over as a tall person, as I am too. It's important that you stand tall, because it's not only good for the way other people see you, but it's actually good for your back. And you told me you have back issues. And honestly, a lot of people come to me with like neck issues, back issues, because if you
They're
can
not
imagine.
Carrying themselves properly.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. And my mother will be so thrilled to hear you saying that to me. She'll absolutely love that. That's what she said to me all my life. I think you're also saying that because I had a 5-floor walk up and I walked in with heavy bags and I couldn't breathe when I walked in the door.
As I say, it's hard to criticize it. You asked me to pick out something, so I had to draw something from there. But Jules, you're pretty perfect.
That's brilliant advice. Brilliant advice. I'll give you $100 now. In the future, what do you hope to achieve that you haven't already done?
Well, I enjoy living in Asia. I really feel that all the careers that I've started are coming together. They help one another. One feeds into another. I really enjoy the dynamic nature of living in Hong Kong, working here. So I'm pretty content to do more of the same. I would love to expand etiquette in China simply because I feel that it's the right time. Because of the Cultural Revolution, people are now in a stage where they want their children to learn how to have international etiquette and behavior and good manners so that they can get ahead in life. And they weren't necessarily taught that from their parents because it wasn't permitted. So I think it's a specific period in time where professionals can come in and teach etiquette. And then probably in a generation, hopefully in a generation's time, it's actually not needed anymore. Because this is passed down through parents to children, and just as it was to you, as it was to me. But at this moment, I think people are looking to learn, they're looking to travel, and that's why it's important to teach etiquette in China.
I think also there's more of a dream to go to international universities and have international careers. And I think that people feel that if they've got that kind of underpinning cultural etiquette and understanding of the Western world, then it's going to help them get forward. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's very important to fit in. Of course, we all need to stand out, but we also need to fit in.
Oh, I love that. That's going to be my quote for your promo.
Right.
Got it.
So let's say you travel and you are not fitting into a culture, whether that is, as a Westerner in an Arab country covering the right parts, or whether that's making too much noise in a European country. If you've been brought up differently, I think you've got to understand how you're going to build rapport with another culture. And so that's what I feel is really important. As I said, basically etiquette for me is just about showing others you care.
Oh, that's lovely. So, Kate, if people want to get in touch with you to book you for a harpist gig or to get in touch with you about your etiquette school or to just be in touch with you for motivation and inspiration?
Just have a coffee.
Just to hang out with someone famous in China. How can they do that?
I would say there's my Superstyle Asia website, and that is superstyle.asia. That's for the etiquette. That's for the personal branding seminars that we offer. Then there's the music website, which is my initials, so K-A-T-A.com. And if you want to come dancing, or if you want to learn your first wedding dance, we do private lessons to help couples. You know,
that's really cool.
It's such a lovely business, very joyful. So that is Ceroc Hong Kong,
and that's a dance studio in Soho.
Yes, that's right. So the private lessons we run in Soho for the wedding couples, and then the public nights we run in Mazu in Lan Kwai Fong. So you can have a drink, let your hair down. It's a little bit dark, so, you know, less intimidating for people coming to dance for their first dance class.
Kate, thank you so much for meeting with me today. It's been really, really inspiring and interesting and fun and a fabulous conversation, and I really appreciate it. And now we're going to go hunt in the cupboard for your harp. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a little bit of harpistness.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be part of Hong Kong Confidential.
Thanks, Kate. Hi Confidants, I want to tell you about my Patreon page. I've joined Patreon in the hope of getting sponsorship for my Hong Kong Confidential podcast. Patreon is a great way for my listeners to get on board and sponsor me with monthly payments, and that goes towards my production costs and rewards for my members. If you're interested in checking out my Patreon page, please go to patreon.com and search up Jules Hannaford or Hong Kong Confidential. I would really appreciate you visiting my page. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.